Can everyone see the screen? Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, boy.
All right, this is the original organic constitution, Article 1, Section 2. Can someone read this for me?
U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Article 1, the legislative branch, Section 2, the House. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, and 3/5 persons. The previous sentence in parentheses was modified by the 14th Amendment, Section 2.
All right, there's been a lot of talk about Trump and the 14th Amendment. Anybody been following that?
Yes. Followed by they were talking about the 14th Amendment was supposed to mute this out. Was supposed to free one of the slaves. They were talking about Judge Roger Taney, and that's supposed to overrule what Roger Taney said after the Dred Scott decision that we are not citizens and never will be. So the 14th Amendment is supposed to solve that, which is not true because the 14th Amendment was never properly ratified. So that's what I'm getting from it, and that's my answer to it.
Anybody else been following it? Trump specifically said that the 14th Amendment was for the children of slaves.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
What does that
mean? And
it
did not. Go ahead. I mean.
No, I'm just asking a question. What does that mean?
Well, it meant that
children of slaves.
It meant for slaves. So physically, we are not slaves no more. So what slaves do we have here? Besides the one that are mentally enslaved, like most of our people are. But what slaves you talking about? And I think he knows what the 14th Amendment actually means.
Right.
It gave us privileges and not rights.
Right.
So, as far as the Native American Indians, well, they were going after Native American Indians, and I hear a lot of us complaining about that. But what a lot of our people don't know is they are not the Native American Indians. We are.
Well,
he haven't bothered us. Go ahead.
The original Americans. That's the best term.
The original American. Okay, I got you. Stand correct.
Those other terms that they use, American Indian, Indian, or Indian, those are terms in which that Native American, those are terms that we don't even need to use because we was here before any of them. So the proper term for us is original Americans. Original Americans. Okay. We use the term indigenous only because that's the reference in which that is used at the United Nations. We can utilize aboriginal from the original. However, original American is best for us.
What about aborigine or aboriginal?
That's what I just said. We can use it, but the
Okay.
best term is original Americans.
Okay.
That way there's no mistaking on who was here first. So many people are saying nowadays that they know who was here first. It was us. The Twa people was here. The Khoisan people were here, and we can keep going on and on. Okay. Someone read this for me.
According to Article 1, Section 2, Constitution for the United States of America, it states that we, Indians, those of African descent, Negroes, etc., are classified as 3/5 of a human being, thus subhuman. This is a Masonic code. One's sight and hearing, listening, deaf, dumb, and blind must be returned to 5/5 or one whole being again. The 3/5 clause of the United States Constitution declares the slave names blacks, Negroes, and colored people as identification and marks of United States properties. The 13th Amendment abolished these slave labels and their slave masters, thus making the 14th and 15th Amendments as post facto laws to the 13th Amendment. All 14th Amendment citizens, including unproclaimed and unrecognized Moors of Amexem, Moorish Americans, American sovereigns, are property of corporate United States of America. This Masonic code goes back to the three monkeys: see no evil, speak no evil, and hear no evil. And oftentimes a monkey is seen with a fez or a tarbush on its head, clapping cymbals. It is all a form of Shriner Masonic mockery. At the 32nd and 33rd degree in said Freemasonry, a person is able to join the shrindom, wear a fez, say Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam, and etc. Note, there's actually only two senses oftentimes. If a person is deaf, then they are also mute, meaning that they cannot speak or speak very well and have to learn sign language to express oneself. Note, Goyim is also the word used in Masonry referring to the uninitiated.
Now, a third degree Master Mason can also become a Shriner.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
Malcolm X speaks on civil rights versus human rights. Human rights come before civil rights. You can never get civil rights until you have human rights. Human rights represent the right to be human beings. Whenever you are respected and recognized as a human being, your civil rights are automatic. No, you have to get the recognition of human rights first. The Constitution classified our people as 3/5 of a man, which meant subhuman, not a complete human being, and once our human characteristics were completely destroyed, this gave them justification for treating us like we were animals. Then it also justified their selling us. If the black man's human rights has been respected, he could never have been a slave here in America. And if his human rights had been restored by the Emancipation Proclamation, automatically we would have been citizens after the Civil War. So we must be regarded as humans. Our human rights must be respected here before, lost my space. Our human rights must be respected before we can ever be regarded as citizens and our civil rights be respected. On one of these plane crashes the other day, I saw that they advertised that some civil rights lawyer was killed.
Interesting.
Yeah, a young lady. Where do we go from here? Chaos or Community by Martin Luther King. We're approaching areas where the voice of the Constitution is not clear. We have left the realm of constitutional rights, and we are entering the area of human rights. Chattel, an article of personal property, any species of property not amounting to a freehold or fee in land. The term chattels is a more comprehensive one than goods, as it includes animate as well as inanimate property. Black's First Dictionary. Chattel mortgage, an absolute pledge. To become an absolute interest is not redeemed at a fixed time. Bouvier 8. Chattel paper. Chattel paper means a record or records that evidence both a monetary obligation and a security interest in specific goods. A security interest in specific goods and software used in the goods. A security interest in specific goods and license of software used in the goods. A lease of specific goods, or a lease of specific goods and license of software used in the goods. In this paragraph, monetary obligation means a monetary obligation secured by the goods or owed under a lease of the goods and includes a monetary obligation with respect to software used in the goods. The term does not include charters or other contracts involving the use or hire of a vessel, or 2, records that evidence a right to payment arising out of the use of a credit or charge card, or information contained on or for use with the card. If a transaction is evidenced by records that include an instrument or series of instruments, the group of records taken together constitutes chattel paper. UCC 9-102A11. The birth certificate and the Social Security card are forms of chattel paper. Before, in slavery, some of our ancestors were branded. Now we are tracked and tagged. Most carry these documents with us at all times with no superior claim and lien on them. The birth certificate and the Social Security card are probably the best gifts that could have been given to us because a trust account is attached to them. Chattel paper means a record or records that evidence both a monetary obligation and a security interest in specific goods. A security interest in specific goods and software used in the goods. A security interest in specific goods and license of software used in the goods. A lease of specific goods, or a lease of specific goods and license of software used in the goods. In this paragraph, monetary obligation means a monetary obligation secured by the goods or owed under a lease of the goods and includes a monetary obligation with respect to software used in the goods. The term does not include 1, charters or other contracts involving the use or hire of a vessel, or 2, records that evidence a right to payment arising out of the use of a credit or charge card or information contained on or for use with the card. If a transaction is evidenced by records that include an instrument or series of instruments, the group of records taken together constitutes a chattel paper. UCC 9-102A11. Warehouse receipt. A receipt issued by a person, bailee, engaged in the business of storing goods for hire. UCC 1-20145. A warehouse receipt constitutes as a document under the title of the Uniform Commercial Code, which evidences that the person in possession of the document is entitled to receive, hold, and dispose of the document and the goods it covers. UCC 201-15, a warehouse receipt may be a negotiable instrument depending on its terms. Barron's 3rd edition, a warehouse receipt or other document or title is negotiable. A, if by its terms the goods are delivered to bearer or to the order of a named person, or B, where recognized in overseas trade, if it runs to a named person or assigns. UCC 7-1041, C, field warehouse receipt, formal civil California Civil Code, section 1858.04. Chattel's is more comprehensive one than goods. Look at the definition of goods. Goods. Goods means all things that are movable when security interest attaches. The term includes 3, the unborn young of animals. The term also includes a computer program embedded in goods and any supporting information provided in connection with a transaction relating to the program. If the program is associated with the goods, such a manner that is customarily considered part of the goods, or 2, by becoming the owner of the goods, a person acquires a right to use the program in connection with the goods. The term does not include a computer program embedded in goods that consists solely of the medium in which the program is embedded. The term also does not include accounts, chattel paper, commercial tort lien, deposit accounts, documents, general intangibles, instruments, investment property, letter of credit rights, letter of credit, money, or oil, gas, or other minerals before extraction. UCC 9-102A44, a term of variable content and meaning, all things which are movable at the time of identification to the contract for sale. Investment securities and things in action. Also includes the unborn young of animals. Black 6C note. All things which are movable equals newborn children. At the time the security interest attaches, birth and execution, registration of the birth document certificate, identification to the contract, newborn's footprint, and informer's mother's signature contract equals birth certificate. Things in actions, quotation marks, human fetuses, newborn babies, unborn young of animals, human fetuses. According to Strong's, in Goyim below, Goyim, animals. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, in Gentile above, a Gentile is a beast. See field warehouse receipt, identification of goods, Gentile, Goyim.
All right, so this proves that your Hebrew Israelite heritage is necessary to come from up under being a Gentile, which is a beast, which is an animal, which is a goyim. Okay? That's the science. The word Gentile is for genitals. You think with your little head instead of your big head.
Goy, noun, goyim, goys, plural. Often disparaging a non-Jewish person, Gentile. Also, goy, Yiddish, Hebrew, goy people, non-Jews, Webster, see goyim, Gentile. Goyim, a foreign nation, hence a Gentile. Also a troop of animals or a flight of locusts. Gentile, heathen, nation, people. The New Strong's Exhaustive Concordance of the Bible of 1995, See note, Goy, Gentile. Note, literally, Goyim means nation. It is also Jewish slang for cattle or animals. Per Jewish.
So chattel and cattle, cattle and chattel are one and the same. Chattel is just a French word for cattle.
Per Jewish thinking, there are only two nations in the world, the Jewish nation and the Gentile. The non-Jewish nation, i.e. Goyim, see Gentile goods. Monster, a human being by birth, but in some part resembling a lower animal. A monster has no inheritable blood and cannot be Valentine's Law Dictionary, 1930. A prodigious birth, a human birth or offspring not having the shape of mankind, which cannot be heir to any land, albeit it be brought forth in marriage. Blacks first. See note.
Therefore, if you are still a Goyim or Gentile without your heritage as a Hebrew Israelite, then you are not heir to any land. Did I make myself clear? That's what it just said. Because you're a monster. Some years ago, I don't know if y'all remember, Jay-Z, Kanye West, I think he produced it, along with Nicki Minaj. They did a song called Monster. They monsters. Well,
yes, I remember.
Has no inheritable blood and cannot be heir to any land. So this is another trick in order to have land rights, is that you must identify yourself as a Hebrew Israelite. Because remember, it just said there's only two nations. That's it. The Jewish nation, which is Hebrew or Israelite, and Gentile. That's it. There's only two. So your documentation must also reflect your Hebrew Israelite heritage so that you can be heir to land. Devils are tricky.
There is nothing worse than a slave with an ego. Slave, a person who is wholly subject to the will of another, one who has no freedom of action, but whose person and services are wholly under the control of another, one who is under the power of a master and who belongs to him, so the master may sell and dispose of his person, of his industry, and of his labor, without his being able to do anything, have anything, or acquire anything, but what must belong to his master. Civil Code, LA, 1838 Art, Blacks, 4th edition. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, defines free as not subject to legal constraint of another, also having power to follow dictates of own will, not subject to the dominion of another, not compelled to involuntary servitude, enjoying full civic rights. Prominent under the word freedom is self-determination, absence of restraint in the power of acting, in the character of a moral personality, according to the dictates of the will, without other check, hindrance, or prohibition than such as may be imposed by just and necessary laws and the duties of social life.
All right. So monsters, Gentiles, or slaves. An Israelite is free. An Israelite is a sovereign. That's what all this boils down to. For those that have read Return of the Ancient Ones by the Empress, you would notice that she makes mention that Moors or Hebrew or Israelites in the book.
That's Doc. What's the history? You hear me, Dr.
Yes.
Yeah, that's when she was referencing the mounds, and she was talking about when Moses got the instructions from the Most High to go and make basically the mounds to do the sacrifices and the different ceremonies. So I remember reading that in the book. Then
Negro. The word Negro means a black man, one descended from the African race, and does not commonly include a mulatto. Felix versus State, 18 Alabama 720. But the laws of the different states are not uniform in this respect, some including in the description Negro, one who has 1/8 or more of African blood. The term Negro means necessarily person of color, but not every person of color is Negro. Rice versus Gong Lum, 139 Mississippi, 760, 104, SO 105, 109.
That's interesting. Because within this definition, Negro, black man, African man, commonly not used with the term mulatto. However, 1/8 or more African blood. So Negro could be colored, but not every color is Negro. How open is that? Does this make any sense? What'd you get from that?
They're talking around the issue. But there's two different classes of people, but don't want to say it specifically.
Right, there's some legalese going on.
Black person. Black person occurring in Constitution and laws must be taken in its generic sense as contradistinguished from white. Rice versus Gong Lung, 139 Mississippi, 760, 104, SO 105, 109.
Why are they using a Chinese case for Negroes and black persons? Because Rice versus Gong Lung, that's a Chinese name. That's not a Negro name, black person name. So why are they using these cases out of Mississippi for the Negro population, black person population, as they refer to them as? Any ideas?
Maybe just something like, once again, some other group of people trying to take what's ours.
Interesting concept.
I would say because we all Asiatic.
Okay.
Color and appearance, semblance or simulacrum, as distinguished from that which is real, a prima facie or apparent right, hence a deceptive appearance. A plausible, assumed exterior, concealing a lack of reality, a disguise, or pretext. Railroad Company versus Alfred, 64, Iowa, 520 NW 779. Broughton versus Haywood, 61, North Carolina, 383. And Wilt versus Boetter, 186, Indiana, 198, 111, and E, 926, 929. In pleading, ground of action admitted to subsist in the opposite party by the pleading of one of the parties to an action, which is so set out as to be apparently valid, but which, in reality, legally insufficient. A turn of the ancient rhetoricians and early adopted into the language of pleading, it was an apparent or prima facie right. And the meaning of the rule that pleadings in confession and avoidance should give color was that they should confess the matter adversely alleged to such an extent, at least, as to admit some apparent right in the avoided by the allegation of new matter. Color was either expressed, an example inserted in the pleading, or implied, which was naturally inherent in the structure of the pleading. Steph P1 233, Merton versus Bank 5 Oklahoma 505 49 P 913, Wheeler versus Nichols 198 168 Oregon 604 126 P 2D 3236. The word also means the dark color of the skin, showing the presence of Negro blood, and hence is equivalent to African descent or parentage. Johnson versus Board of Education of Wilson County, 166 North Carolina, 468, 82, SE 832, 834, LRA 19158, 828.
So it also means the dark color of the skin, so melanin, which shows the presence of Negro blood, African descent. But color is that which is distinguished from being real. It appears to be right, but there's an assumed exterior. Wonder why we have racial profiling. Because you are assumed to be guilty before being proven innocent, according to this definition. Anyone else pick that up?
Yeah.
That's why society already they assume that we black male, black woman, like the policy enforcers, when they are behind you, they give you a description or what they think is your description. Mm-hmm. But that's where we have to enforce law, and do it in court, not on the side of the road. Self-ads.
Yeah, so this is the reason why they started calling us colored people, because they basically are saying that they're using legalese basically as a common term, basically telling everybody, say, hey, yeah, they're colored people.
Right.
But they're referring to the skin color, but they're also using legalese and getting us to go along with that legalese as well, declaring us as something artificial or not real.
Right.
So.
And there's apparent when you read the definition, colored.
Colored. By common usage in America, this term in such phrases as colored persons, the colored race, colored men, and the like is used to designate Negroes, a person of the African race, including all persons of mixed blood descended from Negro ancestry. Collins versus Oklahoma State Hospital, 76 Oklahoma 229184 P 946 949 7 ALR 895 Theophanis versus Theophanis 244 Kentucky 68951 SW 2D 957. But where a state constitution provided for separate schools for the white and colored races, the term white race was held to be limited to the Caucasian race, and the term colored races to embrace all other races. Rice versus Glungloom, 139 Mississippi, 76104 SO 105107. It has also been held that there is no legal technical signification to the phrase colored person, which the courts are bound judicially to know. Posca versus Dawes, 31, Texas, 74.
All right, so they used, that's the answer that we was looking for. They went back to Rice and Gunloom again. So there was only Caucasian race, and everybody else was the colored races, according to their definition. So you have black, brown, red, yellow. People of color, as they refer to us as. Therefore, they was able to use the Rice and Gunloom case for us as well.
Dred Scott versus Sanford, 60 United States, 393 of 1856, and 19 Hal, 393, 15 L, ed. 691, 1857, United States Supreme Court. Dred Scott, Plaintiff in Error versus John F. A. Sanford, December term, 1856, 407. I, a free Negro of the African race, whose ancestors were brought to this country and sold as slaves, is not a citizen within the meaning of the Constitution and the United States. When the Constitution was adopted, they were not regarded in any of the states as members of the community which constituted the state, and were not numbered among its people or citizens. Consequently, the special rights and immunities guaranteed to citizens do not apply to them. Dred Scott versus Sanford. Opinion of the court, December term, 1856, 406. Section 4. They had more than a century before been regarded as beings of an inferior order and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect.
Brother Joe, you can mute your background.
According to the Black Law Dictionary, second edition, citizen 3, all natives are not citizens of the United States. The descendants of the Aborigines and those of African origin are not entitled to the rights of citizens. That Constitution does not authorize any white persons to become citizens of the United States, and it must therefore be presumed that no one is a citizen who is not white. Therefore, there is a marked difference between citizenship and heritage.
And that's where Taj speaks about free white persons, which is status. not color.
What is the meaning of heritage? Heritage, part of speech, noun. Off heritage, an inheritance from heritor, ll, hereditare, to inherit from, Latin, hereditas, property that is, can be inherited. Something handed down from one's ancestors or the past, as a characteristic, a culture, tradition, etc. The rights of burdens or status resulting from being born in a certain time or place. Birthright. In the Bible, the chosen people of God, Israelites. B, the Christian church, as being the lords over God's heritage. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 3. Webster's Universal Unabridged Dictionary. Heritage. In the civil law, every species of immovable which can be the subject of property such as lands, houses, orchards, woods, marshes, ponds, etc., in whatever mode they may have been acquired, either descent or purchase. Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition.
So that's interesting because when we go to the definition for land, the word Moors is embedded in it. So Moors, hence, is heritage.
The 13th Amendment allegedly abolished slavery, but that created a new problem. The newly freed slaves were not citizens of any state or country because they were just property, and property did not have citizenship. To solve the problem, the 14th Amendment allegedly passed. This amendment created a new class of citizenship. This new class was legally called United States citizen with a small lowercase c, not United States of America citizen with a capital C, but just United States citizen. Notice that the U.S. citizen is spelled with a lowercase c. This is to show a lower class of citizenship. This class of citizen, United States citizen, is a privilege granted by the federal government and not a sovereign inalienable right. From Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, ratified in 1868, creates or at least recognizes for the first time a citizenship of the United States as distinct from that of the state. All capital letters written uppercase. Note, a proper name appearing in all capital letters, which is uppercase, falls outside of the rules of English grammar, which authorizes the use of a capitalized letter only for a very limited number of well-defined uses, such as the initial letter of a proper name. A capital letter is defined as of the large size used at the beginning of a sentence or as the first letter of a proper name. No lexical authority for use of all capital letters in the name of a man or woman has yet been referenced by those who would insist on corrupting the true names of men and women by displaying their name in all capital letters. An all capital letters written version of one's name is not one's true name, but an artificial construct, existing by force of law only. No authority of English grammar recognizes such a contrivance. The legal term improper persona means in one's own proper person. How can one do anything outside of one's own proper person unless there exists some other person by whom or which one could act? Using the juristic artifice known as legal fiction, parties identified by their proper noun name have been ascribed corrupted all capital letter names. all legal proceedings, court records, and licenses use only all capital letter names. All legal pleadings, court records, and licenses use only names appearing in all capital letters. An example, newborn, artificial persons existing in contemplation of or by force of law alone. C, legal fiction, proper fictitious name, artificial person, artificial, idem sonans, informer.
That made me think of how they put people's, I guess, name on their gravestone. Like on my mom's, it has Bondon at the top, and then it has Ella Marie at the bottom. But Bondon is in all caps. And I noticed that on a lot of people's headstones, their surname is all caps. It's not the whole, name. So I know that death certificate has a security bond on it too.
All those items have the name in all caps, which verifies that is a fiction.
So on the last thing on there was informant, and that's what they have our appearance as on the birth certificate.
Yes.
Is that why they say, like on obituaries, the one that transitions is lying in state? They say such and such is lying in state at such and such funeral home.
Yep. Anytime you see the name in all caps, that's what it symbolizes. Artificial person, fictitious person, etc.
Strawminus homo, Latin, a man of straw, one of no substance, put forward as bell or surety. Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, strawman, a front, a third party who is put up in name only to take part in a transaction, nominal party to a transaction, one who acts as an agent for another for the purposes of taking title to real property and executing whatever documents and instruments the principal may direct. Person who purchases property for another to conceal identity of a real purchaser or to accomplish some purpose otherwise not allowed.
So not allowed. What does that mean? That they had to create a fiction, an artificial person to go through, otherwise it would not be allowed. Because they can't do business with the natural person. Because a corporation can only do business with a corpse, i.e., your name in all caps, the straw man, straw person, strawmius homo, artificial person, juristic person.
So is the suffix nation on corporation, is that nation, like corpse nation, so dead nation?
Right.
Okay.
Nation.
Artificial persons, persons created and devised by human laws for the purposes of society and government, as distinguished from natural persons. Corporations are examples of artificial persons. 1 BL, Com 123, Chapman versus Brewer, 43, Nebraska, 890, 62, NW 320, 47 AM, State Representative 779. Civilator mortuus. Civilly dead, dead in the view of the law, the condition of one who has lost his civil rights and capacities and is accounted dead in law. Rasser versus Rasser, 173, South Carolina, 365, 175, SE 545.
So they had to make you dead in law. And these laws were devised by humans, not God's laws. Human laws for the purpose of society and government. Distinguished from natural persons, because they can't do business with a natural person. Only a corpse can interact with a corporation, which they devised and told you that's an example of an artificial person. It's a corporation. So they had to transform you into a corporation, a dead entity, civilis mortuus.
So they commit fraud from the beginning and then get you to agree to it.
Exactly. From your birth, on the birth certificate, name in all caps. And then sell your shit on the stock market.
Well, they're even doing this on your utility bill, any your W-4s,
right?
Anything that you interact with.
Anything that you sign is money. Exchange.
Dummies, noun. One who holds legal title for another. A straw man. Hifstad versus Wasiki, 178, App Division 733, 165, New York, 898, 900, space 61.5 feet in width between street railroad tracks. Schroeder versus Pittsburgh Risk Company, 311, PA, 398, 165A, 733. Dummy, part of speech, adjective. Sham, make-believe, pretend. Imitation. United States versus Warren, D.C., Idaho 295, F 328, 330. As respects basis for predicating liability on parent corporation for acts of subsidiary agency, adjunct, branch, instrumentality, dummy, buffer, and tool, all mean very much the same thing. Lowendow versus Baltimore and OR Company, 287, NYS 6274, 247, App Division 144.
Now, it makes sort of sense in the world when you look at the Wizard of Oz. The first person she met on the Yellow Brick Road was the Scarecrow. In other words, the straw man. And he was looking for a brain. So he was classified as a dummy. As you see here, a dummy is a straw man.
Black's Law Dictionary, 7th edition. Natural person is indigenous, native, the original or natural inhabitants of a country, of or relating to birth or natural child. Note, within the word indigenous is the word gene, which means to give birth or free-born. Unlike the word native, which refers to one's residence, indigenous refers to one's direct ethnicity. According to Webster's Student Dictionary, International Encyclopedia Edition states that a native is born or produced in a region or country in which one lives. Indigenous, of or pertaining to one's birth or to its place or circumstances. Natural rather than acquired, inborn, of or pertaining to original inhabitants, usually applied to non-European peoples.
I'm sorry,
Natural.
Dr. Alim. I'm sorry. Can you go back to dummy? I want to screenshot that real quick. I'm sorry. Wanishi.
Natural person, a human being, as opposed to artificial or fictitious persons such as corporation. The phrase natural person does not include corporate entities, but the phrase person without qualification may or may not include artificial persons depending on the context. Thus, the phrase no person in the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause has been held to include natural and artificial persons. But the same phrase, no person, in the Fifth Amendment's Privilege Against Self-Incrimination Clause has been held to include only natural persons and not corporations. Since the privilege is personal, it may not be asserted by an artificial person. See Barron's third edition, see note. In full life, continuing both physical and civil existence, that is, neither actually dead nor civil mortuus. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th Deluxe Edition, page 895.
All right, so natural person, indigenous, and full life, as compared to artificial persons, dummy, and civilis mortuus.
According to Webster's 7th New Collegiate Dictionary, defines indigenous, indigena, now native from Indu, in, within, akin to ln and to ld down, plus engineer to beget, produce, growing, or living naturally in a particular region or environment. Inborn, innate, synonym, see native. The Supreme Court of Colorado has ruled. Colorado Anti-Discrimination Commission versus Case 380P 2D34 of 1962. Natural rights. Inherent rights and liberties are not the creatures of constitutional provisions either at the national or state level. The inherent human freedoms with which mankind is endowed are antecedent to all earthly governments, rights that cannot be repealed or restrained by human laws, rights derived from the great legislator of the universe. Thus, the only way the government will contract with you is if you waive your inalienable rights and agree to be under their jurisdiction.
Right. Let them transform you into a corporation. That's the only way they can do anything with you. As long as you maintain that you're a natural person, that you're indigenous, original American, Aborigine, then they cannot. Because the 14th Amendment does not apply.
And they love doing that. They love bringing you into their jurisdiction. Especially, when you try to do commerce, even if you change your nationality as a Moor, you're trying to do commerce to make it really hard for you to be outside the jurisdiction. For example, if we say that we're going to set up our temple under the 508 and you fill out that application, they will send you back approval, but you would be a 501c3.
Right.
So you will have to know, do your due diligence, send them affidavits, letting them know on the notice, giving them notice of your status.
Exactly.
Moors are based on the principle that every person is sovereign. We have sovereign rights to our own lives, the right to make our own choices, the right to control our own lives, to make our own important decisions, to be in control of our own bodies, to own property, to have opinions, and to express those opinions. It's about my life, my choice, my thoughts, my body, my property, my spirituality, my friends, my family, my lovers, my groups, my hobbies, my mistakes, my responsibilities, my survival, my appearance, my identity. I own it. It is mine to control. It is the ownership of oneself. Free white persons. Free white persons referred to in Naturalization Act as amended by Act July 14th of 1870 has meaning naturally given to it when first used in First Statutory 103C3, meaning all persons belonging to the European races then commonly counted as white and their descendants, including such descendants in other countries to which they have immigrated. It includes all European Jews, more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, and Slavic descent. It includes Magyars, Lapps, and Finns, and the Basques and Albanians. It is included in the mixed Latin, Celtic, Iberian, and Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, the mixed Greek, Latin, Phoenician, and North American inhabitants of Sicily, and the mixed Slav and Tartar inhabitants of South Russia. It does not mean Caucasian race, Aryan race, or Indo-European race, nor the mixed Indo-European Dravidian, Semitic, and Mongolian peoples who inhabited Persia. Assyrian of Asiatic birth and descent will not be entitled to become a naturalized citizen of the United States as being a free white person. Ex parte Shahid, D.C. SC 206, United States versus Cartazorian. Ex parte Doe, Henry X. Not a native of India who belonged to Hindu race. Ram Samaras versus the United States. Free white person. Government crosses the line, however, when they limit your personal sovereignty and abridge our right to control our lives. Examples of when the government crosses the line includes laws that prohibit women from having the same rights and privileges as men, government that recognizes fictional deities or expresses a preference for one form of religion over another establishes a state religion, government that gets involved in ending prayer, government that oppresses people because of their nationality, region, creed, disabilities, and etc., government that prohibits the legitimate and responsible use of mind-altering substances for the purpose of attaining religious insight and inspiring creative thinking, and governments that put itself on corporations ahead of the needs of the people. DeLima versus Bidwell of United States 179 at the year 1900. The Constitution is not a physical substance. It is in the nature of a grant or power, or what would be termed in private law a power of attorney. A real constitution is a grant of rights or powers by a sovereign. The sovereign cannot be limited, for he is the source of all law. Yickwo versus Hopkins 118, United States 370. Amendment 14 of Citizenship Rights, allegedly ratified July 9th of 1868. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. What is a privilege? A special right, special legal right, exemption, or immunity granted to a person or class of persons. An exception to a duty. Legal, adjective, of or relating to law, falling within the province of law, or established, required, or permitted by law. Lawful. 3. Of or relating to law as opposed to equity. Grant. Part of speech, verb. To give or confer something with or without compensation. To formally transfer real property by deed or other writing. To give permit or agree to approve warrant or order, which is a request, motion, etc. As you can see by the 14th Amendment, you are a United States citizen who falls under the jurisdiction of the federal government. And the federal government grants you your so-called unalienable rights. This completely contradicts the Declaration of Independence, which is one of the 4 constitutions. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Endowing, endowing, or endows. To provide with property, income, or a source of income. To equip or supply with a talent or quality. Nature endowed you with a beautiful singing voice. To imagine as having a usually favorable trait or quality. Endowed the family pet with human intelligence. The philosophical idea of a creator is the idea of an absolute highest authority. That authority endowed you with unalienable rights. So why are you asking the state for permission to exercise them? It is because you are less than human, or at least something pertaining to you is. Remember that slaves were considered to be animals and less than human. Even after slaves were freed, when 2 freed slaves got married, it was considered animal husbandry. The newly freed slaves did not have the same citizenship status as everyone else. The 13th Amendment freed them, and the 14th Amendment charted out their citizenship status. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Notice the word consent. To consent means you have made a contract. You have willingly, yet unknowingly, diminished your own political status by contracting with the state and placing yourself under 14th Amendment jurisdiction. If you have a birth certificate, you are contracted with the state. If you have a driver's license, you are contracted with the state. If you are a registered voter, you are contracted with the state. If you have a gun permit, you are contracted with the state. If you have a marriage license, you are contracted with the state. The idea of capitis diminutio and having a straw man is merely a symptom of the 14th Amendment. You do not have a right to do something if you have to ask for permission. You have a privilege. Stop asking for permission and just do it. The sovereign technically has unalienable rights, not constitutional rights. We call them constitutional rights, but they are not. They are unalienable rights secured by Constitution, state, and federal. The basis of any inalienable right is established in the Declaration of Independence. This document very clearly states that we hold these truths to be self-evident and that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. Look for the mention of God or unalienable rights in the Constitution, and you will not find them. There are four constitutions. Convinced that it is the inalienable right of all of our people to control our own destiny, persuaded that the Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Constitution of the United States, and the Bill of Rights are the principles in which we believe in, that these documents, if put into practice, represent the essence of mankind's hopes and good intentions. So we must take it out of the hands of the United States government, and the only way we can do this is by internationalizing it and taking advantage of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, the United Nations Charter on Human Rights, and on that ground being it into the United Nations before a world body, wherein when we can indict Uncle Sam for the continued criminal injustices that our people experience in this government.
All right. Malcolm X, Al-Haj Malik al-Shabazz said that. So he was about to move towards what the Empress moved or made moves on. She actually got a chance to do that. He talked about it, but didn't get a chance to. So she fulfilled his mission at the United Nations under the human rights, under indigenous rights, on the Social and Economic Council, etc. Okay. Are there any questions about anything that we're going over? Thank you, Goddess. Kendrick.
Thank you.
Yes, I got a question.
Yes.
Do you know how I seen the connotation? I don't know what you got going on outside of the class, but do you know how much all the connotations? Well, I could talk to you privately.
Donation.
All right.
Yes, Arlene.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to know. Can I call you after class?
Yeah, about an hour or two afterwards.
After the class. Okay. It was some. I have it was about Orishas, but I didn't want to talk about it in front of the class.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Doc, the question. So, basically, with what we just read, we know the problem, we know the cure, we know the solution. But, I know that we don't have the numbers to, for the people to occupy the land and so forth. But what do you think is, should be, or what is the next, move?
Is getting 10,000 people on a petition and bring them before the international lawyers at the United Nations.
Overstood. Okay, yeah, that's what's up. Just let me know, what I can do to help.
Okay.
Watch dice.
As it was strange.
Please, Doc. So about the petition, the names on the petition, I'm guessing they all have to be reclamated moors or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Arlene. The thing about I know you know about the ICE. They said they were going on the reservations,
Right.
and kidnapping some, well, taking the people off the reservations. I was thinking the reason why they were doing that because maybe Trump know they're not the Aboriginal or the original Americans.
Yeah.
So that's what you think too?
Possible.
Possible.
You know, allegedly he's going after the $5 Indians.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you need to go after them.
Yeah.
So okay then.
Okay.
The question, another question on the petition. Now, the names on the petition, do they all have to be Washita, or do they all have to? Could they be of other indigenous nations?
Yeah, anyone who is reclamated with one of the tribes that we in treaty with.
Okay.
I went over the tribes last week that we in treaty with.
Yes, we do. We have that information. Doc, how much do we have so far?
I say over the last 20 years, over 5,000. But that's just United Washington. That's not including the rest of them, the Embassy, the Great Seal, etc.
Well, what can we do to bring everybody together that we have under the umbrella so far?
We talk to them.
That's something we should probably try to do, like, as far as, the people that we have so far, try to get back at least like a database or something together where everybody can, be present.
Right. Well, we got a database for the majority of the people names. So we just need to talk to the other treaty members and get them aboard. So who wants to be an ambassador? That's the question. Because the ambassador will have to reach out to these various Moors in order to connect.
I don't mind being one of the ambassadors. I think we would need more than one.
Yeah, you count me in.
Okay.
Does that include like the insurer MSTAs? Are they under that with us?
Some of them are, in particular the federal or the Federation Moor Science Temple of America, from out of Durham. They speak on the Empress. So they overstand.
If we don't already have, maybe we could form a committee to be in charge of that. That way, it's on the move,
Right.
and not stagnant.
All right. We'll work on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind being a part of that. Me, I would like some kind of something we could put together in writing, explaining it, the importance, and everything. Because I've been seeing more talk about the Empress, for example, but I know they not Washington or any other.
Well, that's
They got a part of nothing. Basically, they went Harvey Bay way or whatever, you know.
All right. Well, like I said, we'll work on it. We'll get it going. Do what we can. I need to tally up the names and the numbers on our end and correlate it with how much we need to do. Mzee Washtoish.
Ate Washington Naswali.
Hey, Dr. Link, I got a question.
Washington.
Ate Washington.
You got time?
In about 2 hours. I got another class I got to do.
What did you say?
I got another class I need to do, so in about 2 hours.
It's kind of quick, and it's kind of like I got a court date at. They sent it to me on Thursday, and then they talking about I got to go on this Tuesday. I was just asking, like, how do I do to just come in, then do just a special appearance, and how you do the affidavit, basically.
You might have an example. You have to Google it. Pull it up on Google.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Follow the example and just insert your information.
You said you sent the example?
Yeah, you should have an example online.
Okay. I'll look at it.
Yeah, insert your information.
You said you sent my information?
No, I said insert your information. The information concerning your court case.
Oh, okay. You talking about in the affidavit?
In the special appearance, yes.
Okay. And that Google search, is it like one of your YouTube videos, or is it just like a random, like I could just look it up type stuff?
Right, just look it up.
Right.
That's the first thing you do for everything is look it up.
I've been looking stuff up. I've been looking at videos before I even asked you the question. I've been doing my little thing, but you know.
Videos, actual documents, put in PDF. Special appearance for court, PDF.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Cool. All right. Peace.
Peace.
Watch Thais.
Yeah, take one story.